Hi everyone! In today's video we're going to review our top 10 psychological horror films of all time. If you wait until the end you might get a little surprise, so I'll recommend you stay tuned. It's getting dark already, so let's jump right in. This is Sandra. Welcome to Streamside TV. Number 10. Don't Look Now. This 1973 independent film, directed by Nicholas Roeg, is very special for me for personal reasons. When I was a teen, my parents bought me a book of short stories by Daphne du Maurier. One of them, titled Not After Midnight, was my favorite, and this film is based on that story. Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland played a married couple that traveled to Venice to try to rekindle their relationship after the recent loss of their daughter. Later, they will encounter two old sisters. One of them, a clairvoyant blind woman, will explain that their daughter is trying to communicate in order to warn them of an upcoming danger. Don't Look Now is a movie that revolves around grieving and those touched by the loss of a loved one. Number 9. The Entity. This 1982 American film, directed by Sidney J. Furie, was an adaptation of the novel by the same name written by Frank De Felitta, inspired on the true story of the Doris Byther case. The film tells the story of Carla Moran, played by Barbara Hershey, a single mother who agrees to undergo therapy with Dr. Snyderman, Ron Silver, after suffering several attacks from an alleged poltergeist. The raw violence and oppressive atmosphere make this film as hard to watch as it is to forget. Number 8. Poltergeist. Another 1982 film with a paranormal at its core. Directed by Toby Hopper and with Steven Spielberg participating on its screenplay and production, it became an instant success worldwide. It's the story of a young family of 5 members that encounters a series of playful incidents caused by an unknown force. Only after the entity turns its attention towards the youngest daughter, Carol Ann, that things take an ugly turn. Poltergeist is a roller coaster ride that will keep you glued to your seat. Let's not forget the common denominator in all projects involving Spielberg: the perfect rhythm. Number 7. Alien. This 1979 film classic, directed by Ridley Scott, will mark the beginning of a never-ending franchise that keeps on giving. With an amazing cast, Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, and Ian Holm, among others, he created this masterpiece of horror and suspense. The sets and creature, created by H.R. Giger, contributed to the gothic horror in Alien. It's for its slow pulse and menacing sensation that Alien keeps captivating audiences worldwide. Number 6. The Silence of the Lambs. This 1991 film is an adaptation of the novel by the same name, written by Thomas Harris. It introduces an FBI trainee, Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster, and follows her interviews with convicted serial killer Hannibal Lecter, played brilliantly by Anthony Hopkins, in her pursuit to catch rampant serial killer Buffalo Bill. The Silence of the Lambs won 5 Oscars and universal acclaim for its perfectly rounded story, unforgettable performances, and smart screen adaptation. As in every Jonathan Demme movie, the soundtrack is also remarkable, and the array of secondary actors that makes the overall experience so well-rounded. Number 5. Rosemary's Baby. This 1968 film, based on Ira Levin's novel, was directed by Roman Polanski. It follows the story of newlyweds Rosemary and Guy Woodhouse, played by Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes. They move to their New York apartment and bond with their unusual next-door neighbors, the Castebets, brilliantly played by Ruth Gordon and Sidney Blackmer. After Rosemary gets pregnant, the air starts getting thick around her as a conspiracy begins to unfold. The best of Rosemary's Baby is its casting and its unusual camera movement, always pointing from Rosemary's back and making us fully engaged in her journey. The sense of tension and paranoia gets hold of the viewer like no other film does. Number 4. Psycho. This 1960 Hitchcock classic was based on Robert Bloch's novel at the same name. Loosely based on Atkins' murders, Psycho ignited great controversy at the time for its groundbreaking depiction of sex and violence. The public, on the other hand, got mesmerized on this story of multiple personalities so widely played by Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. It depicts a secretary, Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh, whom, after stealing money from his boss, leaves town to reunite with her lover and accomplice. She'll spend the night at the Bates Motel, sealing her fate. Hitchcock, masterful as it was, will lead the audience to a story flip that will leave them trapped until the very end. Number 3. The Omen. This 1976 film, directed by Richard Donner, became one of the highest-grossing films of its year. It tells the story of an American diplomat, Robert Thorne, played by Gregory Peck, and his wife Catherine, played by Lee Remick. She loses her baby during labor, and with her husband's consent, they secretly adopt an orphan baby whose mother died during birth. After a few years, a Father Brennan appears to warn Thorne about his child, Damien, true origins. Right before production started, Gregory Peck's sons committed suicide, which resulted on a painfully real performance that filters through the screen. Number 2. The Exorcist. This 1973 cult classic, based on the novel by the same name, written by William Peter Blatty and directed by William Friedkin, was described by critics at the time as the scariest film ever made. It follows the story of actress and single mom Chris MacNeil, played by the great Ellen Burstyn, and her daughter Regan, played by Linda Blair. Following an innocent game of Ouija and contacting a spirit called Captain Howdy, Regan begins to show strange behaviors and suffer unexplained violent episodes. After being examined by every doctor and taking every test money can buy, a desperate Chris contacts Father Karras, Jason Miller, in search of guidance. The only choice would be to contact expert exorcist Father Merrin, played by a 44-year-old Max Vencito, portraying a 79-year-old priest. The Exorcist was groundbreaking in its use of subliminal images that get imprinted in the audience's brains, causing a full-blown terrifying experience. For things like the clever use of Mike Oldfield's tubular bells or the beautiful Father Merrin scene, this film passes generation to generation, scaring audiences to the core. And finally, our number 1, The Shining. This 1980 horror film, based on Stephen King's 1977 novel, was directed by Stanley Kubrick. King has openly said that he doesn't like what Kubrick did with this story, but it's precisely that what makes this film so strong and unique in its own terms. The Shining is the story of the Torrance family, the father Jack, played by Jack Nicholson, the mom Wendy, Shelley Duvall, and their son Danny, played by Danny Lloyd. The father Jack, a recent recovering alcoholic and frustrated writer, gets a job for the winter as a hotel caretaker on the Overlook. He has to move in with his family while winter snow will leave them isolated, which is the perfect opportunity for him to work on his book. The film got mixed reviews and reception from audiences. People familiar with Kubrick's work will know about the symbolism and codes used by the director throughout his films. So as a Matryoshka doll, it's a tale within a tale within a tale. In order to understand some of the Shining riddles, I highly recommend watching the 2012 documentary Room 2037 by Rodney Asher. Believe me, you won't be disappointed. The Shining is my favorite film and Stanley Kubrick my favorite director, so I will make a full video some other time. For that and for so many other reasons, The Shining is our #1 psychological horror movie of all time. Thank you again for your time and attention. I'll see you very soon with more videos I hope you love. Until then, see you next. Bye bye. Oh wait, I almost forgot.